Have you ever been working, walking somewhere, or just about to fall asleep, when suddenly someone pops into your mind? It's not like you saw them yesterday. It's not like you were trying to think about them, but they're just there. Like a song you've heard too many times, playing again and again on repeat. And you wonder, why can't I stop thinking about this person? Is it because I still love them? Still angry? Still attached? Or is it just because they were special? Here's the strange thing. According to Zen and Buddhist teachings, when someone stays in your mind like that, it's not always about them. It's often because you gave a part of yourself to them, or they awakened something inside you that still needs healing. The mind doesn't cling to anything without a reason. Just like a river doesn't stop flowing unless there's a rock in the way. Your thoughts don't return to someone unless there's an attachment or a lesson waiting to be seen. Sometimes, it's not really them we're holding on to. It's a memory of something unfinished. A word never spoken. A look never exchanged. A version of ourselves we think we could have become if only we'd had another chance. And so, they stay. Not as a person, but as a vivid memory of who we might have been. There was once a man who lived in a quiet mountain village. He spent his life practicing meditation, serving tea in a small tea house by the road. His life was simple, peaceful. Each day, he boiled water, poured tea, and listened to the wind whispering through the trees. To him, every guest was like a passing cloud. They came and they went. No clinging, no attachment. Until one late afternoon, a woman came in. She didn't speak much. She just sat there still and calm, her eyes deep, as if holding an entire sky within them. As the man poured her tea, his hand trembled. A strange feeling stirred inside him, like meeting someone he had known a long, long time ago, even though they had never met. She looked up and asked, "Why is it that some faces stay with us forever, while others vanish even if we just saw them yesterday?" He had no answer, and though she stayed less than an hour, from that day on, she never left his mind. Day after day, he tried to forget. He meditated more, Saturday, in deeper stillness. But the more he tried, the more she returned. Every time he closed his eyes, she was there. And slowly, restlessness grew inside him. After all these years of practice, why couldn't he let go of such a brief moment? One day, his old teacher came to visit the tea house. "What's weighing on your heart?" the teacher asked. The man confessed and told him the whole story. The teacher smiled gently. "Then let's look deeply into this together," he said. "When you think of her, what do you feel?" The man paused, then said, "It's a strange sense of loss, like I lost something before it ever even began." The teacher nodded slowly. "Then you're not missing her. You're missing a version of yourself you never lived. You're grieving for a word you never said, an action you never took. She is no longer just a person. She has become the shadow of your unfinished self." The man said nothing. The tea had gone cold, but in his chest, something began to stir. All the things he had run from, avoided, buried deep inside, were now becoming clear. And that's the truth. People don't stay in our minds because they're too powerful. They stay because we've given them a part of ourselves, or because they brought up a question we're still afraid to answer. So if you're wondering why someone won't leave your mind, the path isn't to force yourself to forget. The path is to look inward. Let's take that journey now and explore the 4 core reasons why someone lingers in your thoughts. Not just to understand them, but to understand yourself. 1. The lesson left unlearned. They are a mirror of yourself. Some people come into our lives so gently, like a breeze passing through. But when they leave behind a space that feels incredibly deep. Time moves on. Life gets busy. Everything seems normal again on the surface. And yet, their presence quietly lingers in the back of your mind. Not loud, just a soft memory triggered by an afternoon cup of tea, an old familiar song, or the smell of rain. And the same question keeps echoing inside. Why can't I forget this person? In Buddhist teachings, there's a very profound answer to this. Everyone who enters your life does so either as a lesson or a mirror. And when someone stays in your heart too long, it may be because the lesson they came to teach you hasn't been learned yet. Think about someone you found it hard to let go of. It could be an ex, someone you once trusted deeply, or maybe someone you barely knew, but somehow they left a lasting impact. They brought pain or left you with regret. And naturally, you might assume it's because you still love them or still miss them. But sometimes it's not about that. Sometimes they're just a mirror reflecting something within you that you haven't yet faced. A person who walked away might be reminding you of impermanence, that nothing lasts forever. No matter how tightly we hold on, everything eventually shifts like a river that never flows backward. Someone who betrayed you or left without a word might be inviting you to learn forgiveness. Not for them, but for yourself, so you can be free of the heavy burden of resentment. Someone who didn't see your worth, didn't love you the way you hoped. They might be shining a light on something even deeper, that you've been looking for validation from the outside, because somewhere deep inside, you haven't fully believed in your own worth. Over the years, guiding students from their 30s to well into their 70s, one thing has become very clear. Most of the pain people carry doesn't actually come from others. It comes from the expectations they placed on others to fill something missing inside themselves. A mother who still grieves the child who left. A man who still dreams of the wife who divorced him 10 years ago. An aging businessman who says he still sees the face of a father he never got to hug every time he meditates. Why does this happen? Because the lesson they came to bring hasn't been fully understood. And only when that lesson is seen clearly can the mind truly let go. No need to force yourself to forget. No need to push anything away. Just understand, and that person will leave your heart naturally, like clouds drifting over a mountain peak. There's a story where someone once asked the Buddha, "Why do I keep thinking about someone who's no longer here?" And the Buddha pointed to a mirror and said, "You're not remembering them. You're remembering the part of yourself you once saw reflected in them." Sometimes, the greatest lessons come in the form of a person, but they don't come with a book or a lecture. They come through a glance, a moment of silence, a goodbye that didn't feel finished. And then they disappear, leaving us face to face with something we didn't know we were avoiding. So if someone still lives in your heart, instead of asking, "Why haven't they gone?" try asking, "What did they come to teach me?" That one question might be the first step toward peace. And if one day you're able to look back and realize that this person helped you see a truth you once tried to ignore, then be grateful. You don't have to keep them in your life, but you can keep the light they brought, however briefly, because in the end, what remains in your heart isn't the person. It's the growth that happened in you once the lesson was finally learned. So when someone stays too long in your thoughts, maybe see them not as a lost lover or a mistake or a regret, but as a teacher, a quiet one who came just long enough to leave a mark. So you would stop, turn inward, and ask yourself, What part of me have I not yet come home to? 2. Attaching the self to someone else, the version of you that never existed. Here's something that happens more often than we realize. When someone leaves, we think we miss them. But sometimes, the truth runs deeper. It's not the person we can't let go of. It's the version of ourselves we never got to become when we were with them. Sounds a little abstract, right? But take a moment. Really tune into how you feel when you think of that person. Is there a vision in your mind of how things could have been but never were? Maybe it was something you never said. A moment where you held back. A decision you didn't make. And then the question sneaks in, if I had done things differently, would it all have turned out better? There's an old story often told in Zen monasteries about the last drop of tea. A monk whose daily practice was quietly preparing tea for guests steady and mindful, once poured a cup for a stranger. And as that final drop landed in the cup, a strange feeling of regret rose in him. Not because the tea wasn't good, not because he didn't serve it well, but because something had passed completely before it had been fully lived. And just like that, we meet someone in life. Maybe it's a romance, maybe a deep friendship, maybe just a short encounter that leaves an impression. And when it ends, what lingers isn't always the person, but the version of ourselves we felt we might have become if we'd had more time with them. A version that was softer, braver, more true to who we really are. A version that real life never gave us the chance to express. Buddha once said, "Clinging to the past is the root of suffering, because the past cannot be changed. But the self, the image of who we thought we could have been, keeps pulling us backward. Not because we love that person so much, but because we haven't yet accepted that what we hoped for didn't and won't happen. And that unspoken longing keeps surfacing every time the heart softens. If only I'd been braver. If only I'd held on a little longer. If only I'd said what I really felt." Those two words, if only. They feel light, but they weigh more than most goodbyes. In many meditation groups, people come with this same question. Why can't I stop thinking about them, even though it's been so long? And slowly, as we sit and observe the mind together, something becomes clear. They're not stuck on that person. They're grieving the part of themselves they never got to be. They didn't show up for their own truth, not fully when they had the chance. There's a teacher who once said, "We don't actually love that person. We love the version of ourselves that we felt when we were with them." At first, it sounds contradictory. But if you've ever been with someone who made you feel more alive, more honest, more yourself, you'll know what it means. When they leave, it feels like you lost more than just a person. You lost a part of you. But here's the good news. That version of you, it's not gone. It didn't disappear with them. It just hasn't fully bloomed yet. And you can still grow into it. Not by bringing them back, but by accepting their absence as an invitation to return to yourself. A cup of tea that's gone cold can't be drunk again. But a new cup can be poured, this time with more presence, more gratitude, more wholeness. So if your heart still clings to someone, or a moment that never happened, or words you never got to say, ask yourself, what am I really grieving in myself? And how can I start living that truth right here, right now, without needing anyone else to make it happen? Because in the end, peace doesn't come when that person comes back. Peace begins the moment you stop searching for an ideal version of yourself in someone else and start nurturing your real, honest self right here in this very moment. 3. Our heart is yearning for something deeper than the person themselves. Some people pass through our lives so gently, but when they leave a mark that cuts deep. Not because they were the most amazing person. Not because they treated us especially well or terribly, but simply because they touched something inside us that had never fully healed. Someone once shared with me, "I don't understand why someone I only knew for a few months still lingers in my heart after all these years. I don't love them anymore. I'm not angry. I don't even want them back. But I still feel an emptiness every time I think of them." And the question quietly surfaced. Maybe this person wasn't just a person. Maybe they were a symbol, a mirror for something that's still missing inside. In Buddhism, there's a powerful insight about this. When the heart can't let go, it's often not because that person was so special. It's because they awakened a forgotten longing within us. Maybe a deep desire to be truly understood without explanation. Maybe the yearning for someone who's fully present without rushing, without conditions. Maybe a longing to be seen not for what we show, but for who we are underneath it all. That missing feeling we carry, it's not always about them. It's about a part of ourselves, a part we've never really dared to live fully. A kind of inner emptiness. It doesn't even have a name, but it's wide enough to make us feel lost. We usually avoid it with busyness, with short-lived relationships, with distractions, work, scrolling, until one day someone walks in and they don't fill that emptiness. They just unintentionally shine a light on it. And when they leave, the light goes out and we're left alone, facing the part of ourselves we've been avoiding. It's like being lost in a desert, desperate for water, and someone walks by holding a full bottle. They don't offer it. They don't even notice our thirst. But just seeing the bottle suddenly, we realize how thirsty we really are. That person wasn't the cause of our thirst. They were the reflection of something we hadn't yet admitted, that we've been longing deeply for something no one else can give. After many years working with older practitioners, especially those in their 40s, 50s, and beyond, I've seen this again and again. On the surface, life seems full. Family, career, reputation. But somewhere inside, there's a quiet ache, a vague sadness, a sense that something essential is missing. Something very human, very real. And sometimes, it takes just one brief relationship to awaken that ache again. Not because the person is extraordinary, but because they stirred the part of us that had gone to sleep. The Buddha once taught, "Return to yourself, for everything you seek is already there." The truth is, most of us don't lack love. We lack a deep connection to our own inner world. We use others as mirrors, hoping to find what we've lost. And when they disappear, we don't just lose them. We lose the temporary doorway they opened into our own soul, so they remain in our hearts. Not because we love them deeply, but because they once made us feel deeply connected to ourselves. They were a window inward, and when the window closed, we kept staring at it, hoping it would open again. But the real window is inside. So instead of asking, "Why can't I forget them?" try asking, "What part of myself did they help me see was missing?" Because maybe that's the invitation. To start the journey inward, to learn how to sit with the emptiness, to learn how to listen to ourselves when no one else is listening, to learn how to be with ourselves instead of always chasing someone else to be with us. And when that thirst is finally seen, finally held with compassion, we realize something profound. They were never the wound. They were the guide, just passing through, leaving behind enough light for us to finally find our way back home. 4. Letting go isn't about forgetting. It's about understanding. There's a common misunderstanding on the path of healing, that in order to let go, you have to forget. Forget the person. Forget the memories. Forget the emotions that once stirred your heart. But the more we try to forget, the more the mind remembers. The more we push something away, the more it pushes back. The more we resist, the more exhausted we feel. It's like trying to force open a door that was only ever meant to be opened from the inside. In Buddhist teachings, there's a simple yet profound truth. You don't need to chase thoughts away, just see them as they are. You don't have to erase someone from your mind. You just need to understand why your heart keeps holding on. Because once you see clearly, the mind will release on its own without effort. Letting go isn't about pretending something never happened. It isn't about forgetting. It isn't about being cold or tough. It's when one day you remember the past and your heart stays soft. No pain, no guilt, no longing. Just a quiet recognition. Yes, that was part of my journey. No denial, no clinging. Just like looking at a fallen leaf. Beautiful, but its season has ended. Someone once asked during an afternoon meditation session, "Teacher, how do I stop remembering? I want to let go, but the more I try, the harder it is." And when we sat together in stillness, watching the mind, something became clear. It wasn't the memory that hurt. It was the resistance to the memory that caused the suffering. Trying to push it away only made it stronger. Like forcing a ball underwater. The harder you press, the higher it bounces back. But when you release it, let it float, let it drift. The water calms itself. The Buddha once told a story about a man struck by an arrow. Instead of treating the wound, the man kept asking, "Who shot me? Why? Was it fair?" The more he questioned, the more he suffered. But when he finally looked at the wound, understood the pain, and tended to it, healing began. Letting go works the same way. It's not about denying the hurt. It's about understanding where the pain came from, why that person mattered, and what still holds you back. That understanding is what sets you free. Over the years, walking alongside many meditation students, one thing stands out. So many people carry emotional pain for decades. Not because they're weak, but because they've never had the space or the courage to look straight at what's been hurting them. They try to forget. They stay busy. They keep moving. But wounds don't heal from being ignored. Only when seen in the light of compassion and understanding do they begin to soften. An old Zen master once said, "It's not that I stopped thinking about them. It's just that now, when I do, my heart no longer trembles." That is true letting go. Not rejecting the memory, but seeing it clearly for what it was. A chapter, a teacher, a completed piece of your life. Letting go, in the end, isn't about doing something heroic. It's a quiet shift that happens naturally when the heart is ready, when understanding is deep, and compassion for yourself runs wide. You can't force fruit to ripen before it's time, and you can't rush the mind to let go before it understands. But when the insight comes, when the light of awareness touches the wound, that person will gently leave your heart without needing a goodbye. And this is why, in meditation, no one teaches you to get rid of thoughts. We're only taught this: see your thoughts like clouds passing in the sky. Don't chase them, don't push them. Just notice and let them drift by. Memories are just like clouds. They come, they go, and your mind is the sky. Vast, still, unmoved. So long as you don't cling to the cloud, the sky remains clear. Even if today feels heavy with emotion, remember, the sky is still blue above it all. Letting go isn't about forgetting someone. It's about returning to the peace that has always been within you, before they arrived and after they've gone. Once you understand why someone lingers so long in your mind, you'll stop trying to force them out, because you'll realize they weren't just a passing shadow. They were a mirror, a lesson, a gentle reminder of something inside you that still needed healing. You don't need to forget. You just need to understand. And the moment insight shines through, the attachment begins to fade. Not because they changed, but because you've changed the way you see them and yourself. The Buddha never told us to forget anyone. He taught us to recognize, to understand, and to let go with compassion. Not to run away, not to force, but to keep walking when the lesson has been learned, as gently as clouds move across the sky. And if you're still holding on to someone you can't seem to let go of, just let your heart rest in understanding. Because one day, when you look back, you'll smile and say, "That person was in my life to help me understand myself better." Thank you for listening to today's reflection. If this message touched something in you, please like this video, share it with someone who might need it, and leave a comment below. Have you ever held on to someone in your heart for too long? And don't forget to subscribe to Buddhism Seeds so you won't miss these gentle, powerful teachings from the Buddha's path. Wishing you a peaceful day and a light heart.